Okay, in today's video about quant, I want to check out specifically this part of the price action, and I'm gonna tell you why I believe this is the big moment in QNT that we have all been waiting for in the last couple of weeks. And right in here is decision time. Are we bullish in QNT and the final low is in, or maybe we should be looking for some more downward price action in order to at least take the lowest low down here about $58.50. So with all that said, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you are having a great time with your family and loved ones. And if you remember, in the previous update about QNT, we were right in here and I was saying maybe this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up, and on a higher degree, more likely than not, this is into a wave 3, and we need to see correction for 4 and at least another move on the upside into wave 5. Now, let's go on some lower time frames and see what is happening. And in my opinion, this whole move starting from, I would say yes, probably this point to about here is a correction structure, either an A, B, C flat, or maybe a WXY in form of a flat and a zigzag. And I know you are going to say now that in a WXY, a flat and a zigzag, we're not really into our wave X allowed to take the initial high, but I would like to be a bit flexible with the rules and say maybe this is actually a WXY. Nonetheless, the point that I'm trying to make is this: more likely than not, this was actually the end of our correction into our wave 4 right in here. And I think we can all agree this is a beautiful impulse into our wave 5. So what we expected in the previous update, I'm going to say pretty much happened. Now, from this point, moving forward, I think we need to pay full attention to every single move that we are getting in the short term in QNT, because this is basically decision time. If we are bullish in quant and the low is already in this area, we need to see a correction structure and not an impulsive movement, and then another move on the upside. And I think maybe like by the next 2 or 3 days, we are going to have a decent conclusion of whether this is a correction or an impulse, and we can have a better idea of what is going to happen next. So again, we need to pay full attention to the short-term price action. What we do not want to see is a very strong move down, maybe like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, without a whole lot of overlapping of the waves in order to take this low about, let's say, $62.50. Why is that? Because at that point, I'm gonna say it, that's pretty much going to be the confirmation of having in this area an A, B, C in form of a zigzag and generally some sort of a correction and not an impulse, indicating from here our move down is more likely than not going to continue for another, I'm gonna say 15, 20, even if we are not that lucky, maybe like 30%. That can actually happen. But for now, let's be a bit optimistic and consider the possibility of having a corrective movement. Now, what are our options when we check out some higher time frame structures? Well, I think we can have pretty much 2 options in here in QNT. You can say maybe this is a wave 1, correction for wave 2, another move up into wave 3, and the current move is going to be correction for 4, another move on the upside into wave 5 if you want to be bullish and say the low is already in. Now, if this is the case, I think our wave 4 is going to be kind of a shallow and not that deep of a move on the downside. On the other hand, if we get a relatively deep correction structure down, at that point, we should consider another scenario. And I saw this comment, I think it was on one of my ICP videos. One of you guys said, what if we are having a series of 1-2s in ICP? And I think the same logic does actually apply to this thing right in here in QNT. Meaning, if we get a deep correction structure down in quant, we can say this is 1, this is 2, and then wave 3 and 4 and 5. And on a higher degree, maybe this is going to be into a wave 3 and a correction for 4, another move up into wave 5. Question: what is the difference between this possibility and the other one? Because both of them do kind of suggest we are going to get a move down. Well, you see, if we get a relatively deep move on the downside, meaning we confirm that we are having something like this, well, okay, the next moves up in QNT in this case are actually going to be much stronger. So ideally, I don't really mind if I see something like this playing out in quant. But for now, let's not jump into that kind of bullish conclusions. Let's just check every scenario step by step and see what are we doing in like very, very short term. Now, if you want to say I am right, and maybe even from the current point, we're going to get a very strong move up in quant. Well, okay, I think I have a good way of seeing whether that can happen or not. Let's go. I think it was on H1 time frame. Okay, what is happening on the live chart? This is a high. The other ones are higher highs. However, in terms of indicators in MACD, as you can see, this is a high, the other one is a lower high. So basically in here, we are having a bearish divergence. Now, again, you probably know what I'm about to say. A bearish divergence by itself is a bit of a negative sign indicating bulls are kind of running out of power. And since at the same time, we are getting this divergence under a very, very important area of resistance, okay, makes sense to say this is actually going to work and kind of send the price down. On the other hand, again, if you believe I am wrong and we're going to get a move up, I think in order to confirm that scenario, you need to wait a little bit more and see a break of this divergence line in H1 time frame, because the moment that we break the divergence line, number one, the divergence itself is going to get invalidated, and number two, as a result of it, you are going to see some very strong and sharp moves on the upside. So as long as we're not breaking this divergence, I don't think we should be thinking about that kind of bullish scenarios. Now, in an ideal world, I want to see something like this in MACD, maybe some more chopping around, and then another move on the upside. Why is that? Because I believe this might actually translate into, you probably know the answer, a triangle structure on the live chart. Let's just do this and go around here. You see, if we are having a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and at the moment we are on our way to have a corrective movement into wave 4, okay, one very likely pattern for it is, you know it, an A, B, C, D, E, which in terms of Elliott's waves, we call it a triangle, and in terms of the sub waves, you know the deal, ABC down into A, ABC on the upside into wave B, ABC down into C, ABC up into D. Where is it? Okay, sorry about that one. And this is going to be our final ABC on the downside into our E leg. And then after this correction, we're going to get another beautiful impulse on the upside. Now let's go on the live chart and see what is happening. Okay, so I think we can all safely assume this is now so far, if we want to be a bit optimistic, 5 down into a very sharp move on the downside. Probably I'm going to say an A, B, C in form of a running flat into wave B, and we can have at least another, I'm going to say, relatively deep move on the downside into our C leg, since this retrace for our wave B wasn't actually that strong and deep. Now, after this ABC, what really matters is this. Are we going to get a move up in order to take the height of our B leg or not? If we do this, at that point, I think, number one, we can overall say in this phase down, starting from the higher side, about 77.5 bucks, we are indeed having a correction structure, and we can be optimistic with a bit more confidence. And also we can say, okay, maybe this A, B, C, D, E, this triangle is actually happening. And again, this also suggests that we're going to have some more moves up in QNT. So let's have a quick conclusion and wrap up today's update. In quant, I think right now is decision time. Are we bullish, or maybe this is just a correction structure and we want to get a very strong move on the downside? And it all comes down to the current move right in here, and we need to see what is happening in every single leg of these moves. What we do not want to see is a sharp move down, again, without a lot of overlapping of the waves, in order to take this low about 62.5 bucks. As long as we're not doing this, I think we can remain optimistic and consider one of the bullish possibilities that we talked about earlier in the video. Now, in the short term, I think we may see maybe some more moves on the downside, but then after it, what you want to see is a move up in order to take this side, because at that point, odds of having an impulse in here are going to be like very, very low. And we can say it with quite a bit of confidence that, you know what, in QNT, we are actually looking bullish. And this is overall some sort of a corrective movement, maybe an ABCDE, indicating we're going to get at least another move up. And again, maybe overall the final low is already here. On the other hand, if after this move down, you see maybe like a correction structure and then one more move on the downside, okay, that's not going to be a good sign. And at that point, you are going to see me saying, you know what, in QNT, this move down might actually continue a bit more. So for now, let's just take everything step by step and pay full attention to what is happening in the short term, because ultimately this is going to determine whether we are bullish and optimistic or not. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Quant's price charts. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.